And we are live on a Monday. My dance moves, they don't change. Actually, they're not dance moves, they're just these things. They don't change, they remain the same throughout all the entire season. Welcome to it. It's called Dance Moves. It's called Clinical Monday for Around Popping Chats, and my name is Nkosi. And welcome to it, man. Thank you so much for joining us this morning, for streaming the conversation, and actually for being part of the conversation as we gear into understanding HIV just a little bit closer and leaving you with the relevant information that you need. And today we are sharing the spotlight on antiretroviral treatment, or in short, ARVs. We want to know what are they, what do they do, what is their function, do we have types, do we have, all those different things that you need to know about ARVs. To be part of the conversation, make sure that you leave your comment on the comment section below, because we are live on Around Popping's Facebook page, and also find us on other social media platforms. On Twitter we are at @n_health, and also on YouTube it is Around Popping. www.popin.org gives you the behind the scenes, and you can check out other exciting things that we have, like gender affirming healthcare, some of the sites that we are launching, some of the activities that are happening in and around the Pop. In speaking of sites that have been launched, courtesy of Around Pop in Kempton Park, or Eguruleni. Well, I say Kempton Park because we launched it in Kempton Park. We are coming to you live from Eguruleni, or rather Around Pop in Eguruleni in Kempton. It's confusing. Yeah. We've launched it not so long ago. Check out our social media for those pictures and more. And I'm joined by the head of the household, Umamole Kayum Cool. Sister Mapaseka Mabena, who, by the way, is not stranger to the platform. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
I'm great. Thank you so much for making time. It's been a while since we spoke to you, and I mean, we come back obviously, seeking guidance and wanting advice, because we want to understand HIV just a little bit better, and understand what are the things that make HIV, or manage it in this instance. So today we're talking about introduction to ARVs. First and foremost, what are ARVs? For somebody who doesn't even know what ARVs are, what are they?
Alright, so ARVs is an acronym that stands for antiretroviral drugs or treatments. So in short, we say they are ARVs. So they're basically responsible for controlling the infection. It can be a person who's not infected, or taking it as a pre-exposure, others are taking it as a treatment, a long-term treatment, or it can be a post-prophylaxis.
So if it's pre, I mean, it is part of the prevention, and also it can be the part of the managing of the virus. But how many types of ARVs are there, or do we have different variations, if that's the proper English, of this drug?
Okay, so with ARVs, we've got different regimens. So basically, ARVs are designed in such a way that they suit individuals' needs. As you have said, we have pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is known as your PrEP, as well as we have the treatment, the long-term treatment. So in terms of the long-term treatment, we also have regimen 1, 2, regimen 3. So that is when now it depends on the complications as well as the side effects and the tolerance of the individual. Then that is when we play with the different regimens to ensure that we don't harm, because the aim of taking ARVs is not to harm a person further, because you already have an infection, so we don't want to damage your kidneys and so forth and so forth. So we play around with these different regimens, as well as to ensure that you are virally suppressed. So response is monitored closely as well. And then we also have post-exposure prophylaxis, the one that you take within 72 hours of exposure, to ensure that you are protected from being infected if you are not.
Let's talk about, you got infected. What happens? What is the immediacy, or what is the immediate thing that gets done immediately when somebody gets diagnosed? What's the next step? What should they do? Because I can imagine, a lot of us, and I share this because I've interacted with people where I wanted to give them their self-testing kit, and they'll be like, I want to find out if I'm HIV. I'm like, but the sooner you find out, the better you know how to manage this virus. What happens? What should be the next step?
Yeah. So the most important thing with treating HIV is knowledge. It's very important that healthcare workers empower clients with knowledge. So it means pre-counseling is very important, because that is when now you include everything. You don't wait for the results. Just include pre-exposure prophylaxis, everything, ensure that by the time the client gets the results, then it's just a wrapping up to say, remember initially in our pre-counseling I spoke about if you are HIV positive, then we need to put you on treatment. Then it doesn't come as a shock to the client. Then the client is able to immediately engage with you further and ask more questions. So what I can say is emphasizing adherence. After diagnosing a person, it's very important that we emphasize on adherence counseling, because we find most clients that we put on treatment and then in the middle they drop out. And then we have identified that the gap is when now we lacked adherence. So adherence counseling is very important, and it's not a one-day thing. You need to follow up the client consistently and also find out the goals, the health goals of an individual, because we need to educate them and ensure that HIV doesn't stop them from living. If you're studying, you need to continue studying. You continue. The only thing is that you need to adopt those healthy habits. Whatever that you are doing extremely, like taking alcohol, then you need to reduce for your own health and be able to.
I want us to talk about finding out early, or taking treatment early versus staying on treatment or adhering to treatment. What are the benefits of testing early? Or testing in general, because I think, like I said, people are a bit scared. They don't know that there is information like this where you can continue living your life, you can live a positive life, you can get your add-on and stay on treatment. But let's talk about finding out early, or testing, the importance of testing, and then also the importance of adhering to the medication, to these areas.
A good question, because in nowadays you find that you have to beg people to test, and it should be an occasional thing, like when you go to a facility and testing your cholesterol and so forth. So HIV should be part of your wellness plan, as an individual, because being diagnosed at an early stage gives you a chance, to ensure that you take care of yourself. Because if you are diagnosed later, then that is when now you find that there are multiple opportunistic infections. You find that your CD4 count now has gone down and the virus is high, and sometimes you find a person with complications such as meningitis and TB. So you can imagine now the pill burden on this person. You need to take treatment for HIV, for TB, opportunistic infections. So early diagnosis is very, very much recommendable.
I want us to talk about what it looks like when you are introduced to ARVs, or when you are not on ARVs, introduced to ARVs, and the end goal where you are supposed to be, and you would demonstrate that with our BOK bottles, because like I said, a lot of people don't even think about the goal being because you are you've gotten your add-on and you are adhering, like you said, you have your goals, you have everything set, you have somebody at pop-in or wherever who really takes you through the steps of adherence, and then at the end actually being undetectable equals untransmittable. Take us through that.
So in simple terms, for a person to understand, we use these bits. So these red bits, they represent the virus, the HIV virus. So before starting your treatment, this is how your system looks like. The virus is busy circulating all over, making you sick every now and then during your treatment now, if you are taking it correctly as prescribed by the healthcare worker, then in the long run, within 2 months or 3 months, then you find yourself now diluting this virus, now the virus going down, and then the black bits, they represent the CD4 cells. So now you find that now the CD4 cells are growing, and then the virus is slightly now going down. So at 6 months, we take your viral load, and then we find that the virus is undetectable, meaning now you can see there's no sign of the virus. All the bits are black. The person is healthy, meaning this person is unable to transmit the virus and can live a healthy lifestyle.
But that does not mean that the virus is cured. It doesn't mean that you are cured of HIV. It just means that the virus is now manageable, it's under control, it cannot replicate. So it is quite important also to emphasize that to the people who are finding out that they're HIV positive, that yes, you will get to that stage, but it does not mean that the virus is cured.
So in simple terms, I always tell them to say the virus is sleeping. Once you miss your dose, then it wakes up and then gets a chance to attack.
I want us to talk about, since we're talking about introduction to ARVs, what then happens to the body? You spoke about CD4 counts and all that. if now you've introduced now the system, the body to ARVs, are taking them at 8 o'clock or at whatever time that the nurses you must take, upon the agreement or during counseling. What happens to the system? How soon does the virus then drop or stop replicating? Because there are copies there, apparently 1,000 copies less or 1,000 copies more. Take us through that.
So it's very much important. We have a very good drug called Antiretroviral.
Yeah.
It's a very active drug. It can simply suppress your virus in 10 weeks, if you are taking it correctly. So you can take blood from that person.
Yeah.
So it's very important that the blood levels of the treatment must remain high, so that you prevent complications and ensuring that the virus is low, and then you give your CD4 cells a chance to go up. That is the main goal, because we need those soldiers to fight for us. And then I just want to quickly, so this is what happens when an individual misses their dose, then the level of treatment goes down, right? And we don't want that. We need you to top up immediately. So that is why the importance of time is very much important when you're taking the ARVs. And I need to emphasize that. However, it happens on some occasions when you find the clients who tell you to say, I missed the time of taking my treatment, and I would encourage them, take it immediately when you remember. But that mustn't be a trend. Yes. Because if it becomes a trend, then it begins to create this wave now, and that is when now we have complications. Now you see there's an exclamation mark now because of missing those every time, and then we have what we call resistance, right? Because now the virus gets stronger. Now they are used to this pattern of yours, and then they become stronger than the treatment that you are taking. So that is why now we find the person having to switch to another regimen. So we need to prevent such complications, because remember, if you move from one pill, then you need to go to a number of pills. And
I like how you said it in our past interviews, where you said you graduate. You're no longer on this stage, now you graduate to the next level. What are some of your questions when it comes to ARVs, man? Have you, are you on ART? Did you get your ART on? Are you, adhering to the medication as prescribed? What are some of the challenges that you are experiencing? Because in the series of this conversation, like I said, we're trying to understand HIV and just get a little bit closer to understanding how we can manage it. And because, the goal is literally to get there, to live in an HIV-free generation. I don't know if that's the current goal, but there's a goal of ending HIV by a certain year. So I hope that we are actually participating in that, and in making sure that we are taking our ARVs. Send through your questions. It is @n_health on Twitter, and with the hashtag Clinical Monday, and our resident clinician, Mapaseka Mabena, who's been kind enough today to take time out to speak to us when it comes to this topic of ARVs. And we just know that there's a difference between the regimen. There's a lot of regimen, but we need to adhere and we need to take ARVs as prescribed. So we're looking forward to getting your engagements. Also, don't forget to follow us on our TikTok channel, or our TikTok account. I almost said channel. Channel is YouTube, but you know what I mean. TikTok, we are at Oram Pop In, and on our YouTube channel, that's where you can find all these series of conversations that we had, either also in the past and currently when we're looking at HIV. Stabas, let's talk about, you spoke about pre and post. I want us to wrap it up, and I want us to just talk about that, and maybe perhaps talk about disclosure, because that's also important. Somebody's just found out pre and post counseling. How important is that?
It's very important because that is when now the healthcare worker plans with the client. You need to plan, like I said in the beginning, you need to know the life goal of this individual, then to understand them and find out if they have any support system. Because remember, you cannot do this on your own. However, we are not pressurizing individuals to disclose to their families or partners. If you cannot do that currently, then Pop In is there for you. We've got trained counselors and a case manager and a social worker in place to support you until you are ready. And as well as just to mention the collaboration that we have with PSI, having the coaches as well, really gives a positive results. So it's very important, and I can say if you miss that step, then you will lose the client, right? And to make sure that you plan and make sure you know the working hours of the client. They are very important because you are able to advise them to say, okay, if you're coming back at home at 9 o'clock, then take them at this time. You are unemployed, let us see how many, which programs can you, register in, so that at least you have an income, to have food and all. Because most of the other challenges with adherence is the socio-economic factors, and we cannot shy away from that, because we can shout and say adherence, take your treatment. However, we have clients that don't have anything. They'll cry in tears to say, but guys, how do I take? So I can say.
So let's talk about, you touched on establishing a support structure. That sort of like isn't linked with disclosing. If the client has a support structure, how important is disclosing? Because now you're coming home, you're carrying a bag that says you have to take these pills. How important is disclosure to the support structure?
So disclosure is important because at least you have that someone who's going to remind you to say, hey V, don't forget your appointment. Hey V, you are not feeling better. Did you go and consult? Would you like me to accompany you? V, it's time to take your treatment. As opposed to having someone that didn't disclose. Now you have to hide your pills, and then your aunt is visiting there, full on this couch, sitting, watching TV. They're not going to sleep, right?
Shasha is
panicking. My pills are there, and my aunt. So disclosure is very important because at least your family can, remind you and say, hey, V, it's your time. We know it's difficult, but at least family, I think it's the best.
Most definitely. So while we are introduced to ARVs, when our system is introduced to ARVs and our lives are introduced to ARVs, even our family, even our friends sometimes even goes to that extent, they need to be introduced to ARVs so that we can be able to manage the virus. So at the end of the day, we just need to disclose if you have to or if you can't. Partner disclosing, I know that's a bit of a tricky one, but do you recommend that people should disclose to their partner?
Yes, and that is why I recommend couple testing. It's very important because it gives you that platform of disclosing in front of the healthcare worker who can guide you guys. Because remember, we sometimes have those discordant couples to say, guys, the status shouldn't stop you from loving one another. You can take PrEP, I can take my ART. We continue building what we want to build. So couples testing is another, easiest strategy, because we find people would say, how do I do it? I don't want to make it obvious and I love this person, I want to marry this person, but every now and then they would ask me, why am I insisting of using a condom? All those things. So couples testing, please, it's very important, guys. Let us do it.
Okay, I know I said 2 last questions. Literally, this would be my 2 last questions. One, when we wrap up, that is important. How ready should? Because a person can find out that they're HIV, but then they are not ready. To take ARVs. How do we measure that the person is actually ready? We can now, initiate them on ART.
Right. So we have what we call UTT, which is Universal Testing and Treatment, which we need to make sure as healthcare workers we initiate a person within 7 days. Hence, I'm saying adherence does not end in one day. We have someone who's not ready to be initiated today. And it means it's your duty as a healthcare worker referring the matter to the case facilitator and the social worker to follow up the client consistently, but ensure that you stick to that within 7 days. In ensuring that you put, because we differ as individuals, they can be you can, accept and say, no, I've been reading about this, I know what is HIV, just give me my pills and let me go. And then you have someone who would say, I'm not ready, I am not ready, I'm not going to take this.
Step by step, thank you so much for your time. We'll have yet another conversation. Really appreciate it. It's a learning something every time when we come here. But make sure that you stick around for the series of conversation as we get to understand the management when it comes to HIV. and share your story with us, or share some of the challenges that you have, or what would be your comments when it comes to ARVs, side effects, how are you taking them, have you started seeing change, what is the goal for you, because individual, like what Mr. was saying, we are individuals, so we all have goals. I'm gonna see you next time on the next Clinical Monday, where we discuss yet another clinical topic with our clinicians. Until then, happy streaming, bye.